PK52, the Saturday morning meeting. Today we'll talk about your career, your lifestyle, the things you chose over the past. And I guess the easiest way to frame it out is if you go to work every day, is it a job or a career? Doesn't matter where I'm traveling in the United States. If I sit down with a group of people, especially people I've never met before, and I singly go through and say, is this a job or career, then very few people ever say job. Everybody says career. And it's interesting to me, if you work within the framework of a business and you show up and you work your hours and you come in with a good attitude and you work within the management structure of that business, every once in a while, maybe you hit a level, achieve a bonus, and you get a cost of living raise over the years that you've dedicated to that business. In your mind, you're saying, this is my career. And what I'm telling you is that's a job. If somewhere during the path, you don't start producing revenue or results for yourself outside the framework of where you're working or what you're doing, then you're going in every day and you're following a system, and that's a job. And there's nothing wrong with that. You make your money, enjoy your lifestyle, build a home, build a family, that's fine. But if you're really that person that sits there and goes, I want to break away from the pack, I want to be, they call them the 1%ers, the top 10%, whatever you want to call it. There's all kinds of names, but I want to be that person that moves the needle. The top of the board that's never been done before, to set the new ground, to go somewhere nobody's gone before. And you really, without natural ability, you really can't do that in the framework of a job. There's always going to be the top producer in a job. Even if it's just a job, there's going to be somebody that produces at a higher level than somebody else. And that's just the way things are. Growing up as an athlete, playing through college, I played with some people that had just natural ability. I mean, they were so good and so above the level of everybody else that the level of work that they put in was not any better or worse than anybody else. They showed up, they went through practice, and then in the game days, they were just superior from everybody else, but they were superior before it started. Somebody that could run a sub 10-second 100-meter versus somebody that runs a 12-second, that person was a gifted runner. And that's the kind of deal. I show up every day. I work through my paces. I practice, and then I come up and I run because I'm a natural runner. But there's been some people in my life that you don't want to call it. You should have told them when you admired what they did, but I don't know. There's some framework in the world where you can't look somebody in the eye and go, oh my God, you were my hero. But I had a buddy in high school that in his junior year blew his knee up. And gang, this was way before orthoscopic surgery. It was destroyed. In fact, he came to the sideline. He was our running back. He came to the sideline, and the trainer sent him back in the game. His knee was torched. And then I played football for Midland Lee High School. So if you know anything about the movie Friday Night Lights, it was kind of a big deal back in there. And they needed him back in the game because losing was not something you did back then. So he goes through rehab, and if you know anything about old knees, they open him up all the way down both sides of his leg and pretty much told him he would never run again or never play football again. And this guy had so much amazing natural speed and ability. He would go to the football stadium in rehab on his own without anybody else every single day and run stands. I went a couple of times with him because we were really good friends, but I didn't go every day. He ended up in the starting lineup again the next year. So, what drove him to do it? He wouldn't get paid. He didn't play college football. But you know what? It meant so much to him that he stepped outside the norm. He didn't listen to the buzz. He wasn't held down by that restrictive job. I've got a building right here. And let's say, for example, you're in a situation where you've made enough money that you need to buy this building and have this building constructed for the people that work with you. Okay, so it would be really nice to buy a building that was already set up with all the furniture and everything in there, but you didn't do that. How many times do you drive by this job site and look at it and feel like it's taken forever to make this happen? And that's the difference between a job and a career. You start out with just a flat piece of earth, and then you do drawings, and then you do engineering structure. Then you decide exactly what each floor needs to be and how to set up the size of the, it's just so complex to do something even like this that we never really think about how many people have to be involved just to be able to make this a possibility. So let me go back into what we do for a living. So we're in a situation where we need clients in order to build our future. The more clients I retain, the more people I talk to, the more people I meet, the more people that know who I am and what I do, the bigger my result. So I put some numbers together just to start this process today. Number one is, what I want to do is I want to figure out in the car sales industry, who needs a car? I'll give you a couple of examples, and then I'm going to ice it down to some facts. A family that has just been told that they're going to have a multiple birth, twins or triplets. If I was to find out, as they learned that they were going to expand the family that rapidly, and I got in front of them and said, I found out you guys were having triplets. That is phenomenal. You are going to be super busy, but your automotive needs have changed and everything. I'm here and ready to help you with that. Let me see what I can do. Let me take this burden off of you. So I don't know. Some people would sit there and go, well, you know, it's none of my business. But the other people would say, you know what? That's right. We might need a bigger vehicle. And if this guy will do this for us, let's let him work for us. Okay. So how many people in your market area have multiple births or have a first child or a second or a third or a fourth child, and you never knew about it? So that's just one example. So if you look at different reasons, so I've got a child that's 15 years old. Well, nearly everybody that's 15 years old within a year will be 16 years old. And in a if you're in a very, very big city, then kids drive at a later age. I get that. But if you're in a rural or open expand city, then most kids get their driver's license at 16 years old and they really need a vehicle. I mean, as a parent, I'm not in the car business. You know, what is the best vehicle for my child? You know, if I ask my child what they want some super sports car or some lifted truck or something like that they've seen on the road. That's not the right first car for my child. So why wouldn't I go to an automotive specialist? Isn't that weird? There's a difference between a car salesperson and an automotive specialist. Why would I not contact an automotive specialist and say, hey, I've really got a dilemma here. My son is about to turn 16 years old. We've got a little piece of property and I'm thinking about getting him a truck for his first vehicle, but I want to know the safety records of the trucks and the durability, and you know, I need your help. Would that not be awesome if somebody reached out instead of saying, what's your best price? They reached out and go, can you help me select the right vehicle for my son, daughter, or somebody else in my family member? Well, the only way you can get into that situation is to be able to track and follow the customers you sold cars to when their children age up to 16, or find out, you know, through a driver's ed school. Why would you take driver's education? Well, I guess you're about to become a driver. There's so many things you could do. Or you can show up and work within the framework of where you're working, and then you can make a living and have a job. But can you imagine how many kids in your market area turn 16 years old, or how many kids graduate from high school and are heading off to college where their parents aren't going to be able to help them with the maintenance and reliability of their car, and how big of an opportunity that is? I'm not even counting that. So let's start with the very first one. There is a very unique situation. Most dealerships, car dealerships, run the service department with exactly the amount of people that they need to run that department, or they're one or two people short. The service writers are busy from the time they open the door. There are people that do everything first a.m. every single day. You know those kind of people. They are sitting outside the dealership, and the dealership's still closed. The moment that door opens up, they want to be first in because they've got, the world is their day, and they want to get their car maintained or whatever as fast as possible. And then during the day, the people that sleep in trickle in, and all during the day, the service writers are writing from minor services like a lube, oil, and filter all the way up to warranty work, and they're working within the customer. And we usually don't have somebody just sitting around doing nothing because they run that as a very, very tight department. So let's say, for example, somebody comes in and they need some major service on the car. There's nothing broken on the car. There's nothing wrong with the car. The car needs some maintenance. It's been driven for a lot of miles and it just needs some things. You've got a couple of minor leaks that need to be taken care of. And in today's world, the newer the vehicle is, the more expensive the components are. If you're willing to drive a 15 to 20-year-old vehicle, to fix that vehicle, to have something done with that vehicle is a lot less money than replacing one component on a 2024 or 2023 vehicle, because it's just super expensive, every single thing, because of the technology changes in those vehicles. So that being said, the service writer comes up to the customer and said, you came in for an oil change. We found out that your brakes are at 15% and you've actually eaten into your rotors, so you need brakes and rotors. And they just tick it off, tick, 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 tick. And all of a sudden, this is over $1,000. And the customer declines. They go, you know what, I'll take care of that in the future. I don't have time right now, whatever excuse, don't have the money right now. I need to check with my spouse right now. Let's just do the oil change and I'll come back for that other stuff. Now, they leave. Why wasn't a sales professional contacted? Why don't you work with the service department so every time somebody does a major dollar decline, that the very next day you call them back? I don't need anybody going back and leaning on somebody in the service department right now. They've just made a decision. They're not going to pay the $1,100 or whatever the service estimate was. They're not going to do it. I don't need somebody back there in their face leaning on them right now because they've already made their decision. But the next day you call somebody back. Hey, I'm Casey. I'm calling from the dealership. I wanted to find out how your service experience was yesterday. Oh, everything went great. They got you in and out. Well, I'm with the sales department, and on my spare time, I call back customers with service, because one of the reasons I work at the dealership is because I really love the way we treat our customers after the sale. So it's a kind of a volunteer deal, and I wanted to find out if everything was okay, and you said yes. There was one thing that concerned me, that you declined on a brake service where the brakes had gone past the point of being safe. You've got a vehicle with high technology, with all kinds of safety technology built in, which all depend on the brakes. And normally it's because somebody just didn't have time to do it, the money wasn't available, or they're saying, okay, this is a time when I'm deciding to let my vehicle go, let the dealership fix it and sell it to somebody else. I'd like to have a discussion with you about that. Let's say, for example, that you got a dealership, let's say there's 4 service writers, they write 20 ROs a day. So that's 80 customers that come through the dealership every single day, 80. So in a 6-day week, you can do the math. Let's say you go back there and you pull 5 repair orders a day, and you call back and do that little word track that I just did. You do the word track based upon what the service was, and you ask them a question to be very, very complimentary to your service department. So 5 times 5 times 50, let me give you 2 weeks off, would be 1,250 calls in a year. So if I take my job where I go in every day and I do my work, and I work as hard as I can within the system of where I work, and I call an additional 1,250 people that for some reason declined a safety-related service on the car. I don't know what the reason is yet, but for some reason they decided to opt out to that service even though it really needed to be done. And I do that 1,250 times. Even if I don't sell them another car, if they come back in and do that brake work or whatever needs to be done on the car, I've earned a client for the future. So if you think about that, so everybody I talk to plus an extra 1,250. Let's keep going on. Let's say that you've been selling cars in a dealership for multiple years. Let's say you're 3 to 5 years. So you're somewhere between 500 and 1,200 vehicles that you've delivered. You can do your own math. You average 20 a month, 15 a month, 30 a month, times the years you've been there. That's your client base. Every person in that base, the singular person in that base, trusted you enough to do business with you. We weren't friends. It was a business transaction, but they could have gone somewhere else. They didn't. They purchased their vehicle from you. That's your client. And I think that every time there is a new offering, new vehicle, or upgrade from the vehicle, then you should send a video out to all your client base. It's the minimum you can do. Hey, KC again, gang, we got the new Tacoma coming out. Just wanted to show you a couple of pictures behind here. There's so many new options on the Tacoma. It is going to be a revolutionary truck. Doesn't have to be very long. It could be a 20 or 30 second video, But you send that out. I'm not even going to count that in my numbers, but if I had 1,200 customers and I had 3 upgrades of product every single year, you can do the math. That's 3,600 times I've contacted my base. So the very first thing I do in the morning, if I go in every day, set my desk up, get a cup of coffee, then the first hour I work my base. That would be something. I do one video, send it to 1,200 people. Then again, halfway through the year, another video, 1,200 people. And what happens is this client base doesn't forget you. You become their automotive specialist versus selling somebody a car and washing them and walking back outside and waiting for somebody else. That would be a job. Sending the video outs would be developing a base and a career. So let me do some more numbers. So let's say, for example, there's multiple third-party body shops in your town. There's a lot of dealerships that do not have a body shop. So there's a primary body shop that we would send our clients to get their vehicle fixed. Even if it was small dent or ding, paintless dent removal, whatever, all of those places are making money off of our referrals. We send them our customers, they make money. They didn't do anything. They didn't have this customer. We sent that business to them. So to me, they owe us a little reciprocity. So I go over to ABC Body Shop and I say, there are people that once their car is put back together, the body work is done, at that point in time, they decide they don't want to keep their vehicle anymore. Or there are people in there that can't afford to fix their vehicle, or the insurance company is shorting them. So I can take a vehicle traded in that they've decided not to do the body work on. I can take that in trade. And so you work with that in that body shop and you start calling their clients back. Hey, you just went through ABC Body Shop. I work with them. I'm over at the Toyota dealership. And they said they just put your Camry back together. I wanted to find out how they did for you. Yeah, we refer people over there. They're phenomenal. We don't even have our own body shop because they're so good. A lot of times when people have our car wrecked and repaired, then at that point in time, they start thinking, well, maybe I'll trade this car. I've already got the car done. It's fixed back up. There is no dealership that can give you more money for the car than we can because we work with this body shop and we can represent that when we sell your vehicle again, even though the car's got some additional things on the Carfax and had been in an accident. So I don't know, maybe I pick 5 of those a week. And it's very easy, 5 of those a week. If I do, 5 a week, and I say 50 weeks, it's an extra 250 people right there. But those people have just wrecked their car. They're eventually going to trade that car. I want that car. I want to put them in a new car. But that's me contacting somebody and offering a service. Not charging them for it, I'm just offering them a service. Let me do this. I'll do one more. Let me see. What do I want to do? Record drivers. Whole different thing when I started. I started with record drivers because if your car wouldn't run, then you needed a wrecker. If you had an accident, the police department called the wrecker. So back in those days, there was really no Privacy Act and everything. So I partnered up with a couple of record drivers that were, people that worked 7 days a week. These people don't go home. Any call comes in, they're in their truck and they're going. And I had 2 record drivers out there, and what they would do is if the car was really badly damaged and everything, they said, here's a guy over here at the Toyota dealership. He is really good about working with your insurance company to get you the maximum refund or the maximum money for your car to repair it or to replace the car. And so they could hand my business card out, and a lot of times they would get the number from the customer and I could call them. You can't do that in most places anymore because of privacy laws. However, how many times does a record driver pick up a vehicle per week that either doesn't run or will never run again? They're 99.9% sure the Avalon's never going to run again because the telephone pole is still in it. And so I don't know, working with that record driver, what can you do for that record driver? Well, I mean, there's dealerships do bird dogs. That's up to the dealership. But what I've got is I've got somebody now, and let's say there was 5 out of all the hooks they hook a week. There were 5 people that really needed another car. They're going to lose their job if the car doesn't start again. Roadside assistance now picks several record drivers. It wouldn't be hard to find out if you had Toyota Care and you had roadside assistance, what record drivers that the roadside assistance calls in your market area because they're getting paid by Toyota every time they hook a car. 365, 24/7. And so let's say you get 5 from a record driver, so that's 250. So I don't know. So now we're at 250, 250, 500, 1250. So, we're at 1,750 people that we've contacted by working our base in a year and still had time to work within the framework of the dealership. This is unlimited, only by your creativity. But when I ask you, if there's 350 million people that live in the United States and 289 million registered vehicles, how many of those people during the year either need a car, want a car, or thinking about getting a car, but they don't want to go through the hassles of getting a car because it's not on their turf. It's not on their terms. That's why so many companies have started to grow, like, for example, Carvana, because they can pick the phone up and get a vehicle. They'll go and grab their vehicle. They don't have to deal with anybody. They don't have to go to the unknown. It's a very poor way to buy a car. To buy something you've never driven or researched before. But you know what? They're growing because of the way that I go to a dealership. Let me finish up with this. I guess I need to write a book, And my book is The Best Way to Buy a Car. It's only going to be 1 page. It's going to be easy to read. You can do it in a day, right? It's only 1 page long. Call the receptionist up at the dealership and say, who is the best salesperson with the highest customer satisfaction and the highest retention of clients. If you were buying a car at that dealership, who would you buy the car from? And the lady says, Robert Hall. He is the best salesperson we have. You know what? Because she knows. Because she's every day, she works and interacts with the sales professionals. If you show up at a dealership, your chances of getting Robert are almost zero because he's busy. He's working a client base. He's in a career. So he normally doesn't take normal everyday traffic. The person you're going to get is somebody they hired 2 days ago and they have nothing else to do but stand outside and wait till you pull in and jog over to you. They have no idea what they're doing. Doesn't mean they're not going to be the greatest automotive person in the history of the earth, but at this time, they're starting out. They're very new in the business and they don't know what they're doing. And then you find it to be a hassle to buy a car because now you got to talk to multiple people. You don't know what's going on. No answers are getting done. If you would have dealt with Robert, everything you would have asked would have been answered because he's the best of the best of the best of that dealership. So my book would say, call the receptionist, find Robert, go to Robert. With that, PK52, the Saturday morning meeting, career versus job.